Company of One, Why Staying Small is the Next Big Thing for Business by Paul Jarvis. Picture this. You've checked all the boxes. Great school. Impressive degree. Climbed your way to vice president of marketing at a major corporation. You've got the family, the mortgage, the career that makes everyone nod approvingly at dinner parties. Then one day, you quit. To draw cartoons. Sounds like a midlife crisis movie plot, right? But for Tom Fishburne, this wasn't fantasy, it was Tuesday. As a kid, he lived and breathed drawing. Even at Harvard Business School, he doodled cartoons for the campus paper. But eventually, logic won. He followed the expected path into the corporate machine. Here's where it gets interesting. Those cartoons he drew, poking fun at corporate life, started making the rounds. First among colleagues, then their networks, then actual paying clients. After years of careful planning and client building, Tom made his move. The twist? He's now earning 2 to 3 times his executive salary. No massive agency, no global offices, no army of employees. Just him, his wife, a sunny backyard studio, and their 2 daughters occasionally joining in. This isn't another follow your dreams story. It's something more radical. It challenges everything we've been told about what success should look like. It's the beating heart of Paul Jarvis's groundbreaking book, Company of One. What if business success wasn't about endless growth? What if bigger wasn't always better? Today, we're diving into this question. We're uncovering a blueprint for building a business and a life that's rich, meaningful, and seriously profitable, precisely because it stays deliberately small. By the end, you'll see that you don't need massive teams or millions in funding to build something remarkable. You just need to redefine success on your own terms. This isn't just business strategy, it's a philosophy for a richer life. And it starts with one simple, powerful decision: questioning growth itself. So what exactly is a company of one? It's tempting to think it means working solo, but there's much more to it. A company of one is a business that actively questions growth. It resists the traditional pressure to scale up, not from fear, but because getting bigger isn't always the smartest or most profitable move. This mindset works for solo entrepreneurs, small founding teams, or even leaders inside massive corporations who want more purpose and autonomy. Conventional wisdom says when problems arise, the answer is always more. Need more customers? Hire more salespeople. Need more revenue? Spend more on marketing. Drowning in support tickets? Build a bigger support team. But a company of one asks different questions. What if you became more efficient instead of hiring more people? What if you spent less to increase profit instead of spending more to make more? What if you handled more customers by teaching them so well they rarely needed help? This is the core philosophy. Becoming better, not just bigger. Smarter, more efficient, more resilient. Paul Jarvis lays out this model with 3 simple rules, echoing Michael Pollan's famous eating advice. Start small, define growth, and keep learning. To really understand this, we need to explore the 4 traits defining every company of one: resilience, autonomy, speed, and simplicity. Let's start with resilience, the ability to bounce back from difficulty, whether it's market shifts, new technology, or even getting fired from your own company. Consider Danielle LaPorte's story. She's now a best-selling author and one of Oprah's Super Soul 100 leaders, but her journey was rocky. Early on, she believed explosive growth was the only path. She took on $400,000 in funding from investors who insisted she hire a wunderkind CEO to run things. 6 months later, that same CEO and the investors changed the business model, pushing Danielle aside. They fired her from the company that bore her name. It was devastating. But after the tears and yoga, she didn't quit. She realized that strings attached to other people's money often come with other people's opinions about your life. So she started fresh. She built a new website in weeks, started offering consulting services that became so popular she had a waiting list, and wrote a best-selling book. She found her path through resilience. Researchers have found that resilience isn't something you're born with. It can be learned. It comes down to three things. First, accepting reality. Resilient people don't waste time with wishful thinking. They deal with the world as it is. Second, having a sense of purpose. When your work is driven by something beyond money, you're more likely to push through tough times because you're working towards something greater. And third, the ability to adapt. In a world where automation and technology constantly reshape jobs, a company of one sees these shifts as opportunities to pivot and redefine, not threats. The second trait is autonomy, which is really about control. People choose this path because they want to be in charge of their own lives and careers. But here's the crucial part. Autonomy and competence are inseparable. You can't expect control if you don't know what you're doing. Think back to Tom Fishburne, the cartoonist. He had a Harvard MBA and years of corporate marketing experience. He'd been honing his drawing talent since childhood. He mastered his skills before seeking autonomy. You have to put in the time to become great at your craft. Caitlin Maud, a digital strategist, spent 5 years at an agency learning the ropes and building a solid network. She didn't jump into freelancing on impulse. She waited until she had enough side projects to provide stable income. Now she runs her own successful company of one, working with huge brands like Beats, by Dre, and Adobe. She's found she can accomplish in 4 focused hours what used to take 8 hours in a distracting agency office, freeing up half her day to spend with her newborn daughter. Her work now revolves around her life, not the other way around. The third trait is speed. This isn't about working frantically. It's about being nimble and efficient. Because a company of one has less infrastructure, less bureaucracy, and fewer people to coordinate, it can move and pivot incredibly quickly. Look at Stuart Butterfield. He started out developing online games. Twice, his games failed to find an audience. But because his teams were small, they pivoted with lightning speed. From the ashes of those failed games, they pulled out key features and spun them into new products. Those products were Flickr, the photo-sharing site, and Slack, the communication tool, now worth billions. By staying small, they turned failure into massive success not once, but twice. The fourth trait is simplicity. As businesses grow, they almost always become more complex. More rules, more meetings, more layers of management. A task that once took a few steps now requires sign-off from 6 different departments. A company of one fights this complexity at every turn. For them, simplicity isn't just a nice idea. It's essential. The best illustration is the battle between 2 social bookmarking services, Delicious and Pinboard. Delicious grew fast, got millions in funding, added tons of features, and was eventually sold to Yahoo for a huge sum. But it became bloated and complex. It was sold again and again, losing users at every step. Meanwhile, web developer Maciej Ceglowski started Pinboard as a side project. It was a one-person company with no investors and very limited features. It did one thing well. He charged a small yearly fee. In 2017, Pinboard, the tiny company of one, acquired its massive venture-funded competitor Delicious for just $35,000. The simple, focused, resilient business won. These 4 traits, resilience, autonomy, speed, and simplicity, are the pillars of the company of one. But embracing them means directly challenging the modern world's obsession with growth. So why do we chase growth so relentlessly? Paul Jarvis points to a few reasons. Often it's driven by ego, envy, and pressure from investors who need massive returns. We idolize people like Elon Musk and Oprah and assume building massive empires is the only path to fulfillment. When someone asks how big your business is, it can feel embarrassing to say, "It's just me, and I plan to keep it that way." But the data tells a sobering story about blind growth. One study of over 3,200 high-growth tech startups found that a staggering 74% of them failed. Not because of competition, but because they scaled up too quickly. Another study followed the 5,000 fastest-growing companies and found that 5 to 8 years later, more than two-thirds were out of business, had massive layoffs, or were sold for pennies. Growth, when it's the primary focus, can be the most harmful strategy of all. This is what Danielle Laporte calls the beast. It's the ever-growing system of complexity you create to feed your vision of getting bigger. She invested in $1 million website, which then required a huge team to manage it. Her focus shifted from her real work to just feeding the beast. Eventually, she realized she had to kill her own kraken and radically simplify, focusing only on the people already paying attention. This brings us to one of the most powerful mindset shifts in the entire book, the idea of the one customer. So many businesses obsess over acquiring new customers while forgetting about the people already listening, buying, and engaging. These should be your most important people. The data is clear. Acquiring a new customer costs 5 to 7 times more than keeping an existing one. And a loyal customer is worth, on average, 10 times as much as their first purchase. Sean D'Souza runs a consultancy called Psychotactics. He made a decision that sounds crazy to most business owners. His company shouldn't earn more than $500,000 a year in profit. That's his upper limit. Why? Because he built his business around the life he wanted, one that includes a 3-month vacation every year and time to cook, walk, and tutor his young nieces. If his profits grew, so would the complexity, stress, and responsibilities, and he wouldn't have that life anymore. His entire focus is making his existing customers more successful. One of his signature moves is sending customers a box of chocolates with a handwritten note. It costs him about $20. People will buy a $2,000 training program from him and rave about the chocolate, because in a world of automated, impersonal transactions, that small human touch creates a powerful emotional connection. This is the hidden value of relationships. Customer happiness is the new marketing. When your customers win, you win. When you help them become more profitable, they'll never leave you. This isn't just about being nice. It's about driving real profit. An empathy index published in the Harvard Business Review found that the most empathetic companies were also the most profitable. This leads to another key strategy: teach everything you know. Many people are terrified of this idea. They think, if I give away my best secrets, why would anyone pay me? But the opposite is true. Brian Clark, the founder of Copyblogger, built a $12 million a year business on this very principle. He started out as a lawyer, but wanted to be a writer. He began sharing everything he knew about online marketing, for free, with a growing audience. By teaching, he established himself as an expert. People began to trust him, and when it came time to buy something, software, courses, training, who did they turn to? The person who had been generously helping them all along. Teaching builds authority, it builds trust, and it builds what's known as social capital. Think of social capital like a bank account. You can only make a withdrawal after you've made deposits. If you're constantly just asking people to buy my stuff, your account will be overdrawn. But if you consistently make deposits by being helpful, sharing valuable information, and connecting people, you build up a huge balance. Then, when you do have something to offer, people aren't just willing to listen, they're eager to support you. This is how you build an army of loyal fans without spending a fortune on advertising. It's through trust by proxy. When a friend recommends something, you trust it because you trust your friend. Studies show that 92% of consumers trust recommendations from friends and family over any other form of advertising. Word-of-mouth marketing is responsible for an estimated $6 trillion in annual spending. For a company of one, this is the most powerful and sustainable way to grow. So how do you put all of this into practice? How do you actually start a company of one? The key is to launch in tiny steps. Forget about creating the perfect, all-encompassing product. Reid Hoffman, co-founder of LinkedIn, famously said, "If you aren't embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late." Your goal should be to reach what Jarvis calls minimum viable profit, as quickly as possible. This is the point where your business makes enough money to sustain itself, even if it's just a tiny amount. The lower your expenses, the faster you get there. This is why many successful companies of one start as side projects, while the founder still has a full-time job. Jeff Sheldon, founder of the clothing brand UGG, is the perfect example. He was a designer who loved typography, but couldn't find t-shirts matching his minimalist aesthetic, so he decided to make his own. But he didn't quit his job and build a factory. He started with a $2,000 loan from his dad and created just 4 designs, producing a tiny run of 200 shirts. They sold out almost instantly. He reinvested the profit, did another small run, and they sold out again. For 2 years, he ran UGG from his tiny apartment on nights and weekends, living off his day job salary and pouring every penny of profit back into the business. He only expanded when it became too painful not to. He launched in a tiny step, proved the concept, and iterated his way to success. This process, launch, measure, adjust, repeat, is the engine of a company of one. You don't guess what the market wants. You release something small and let the market tell you. Then you listen and adapt. Perhaps the most important story in the entire book is one of history. In Japan, there's a word, Chinese, for businesses that have lasted for centuries. The world's oldest continuously run hotel, the Nishiyama Onsen Kyunkan, opened its doors in the year 705. For over 1,300 years and across 52 generations of the same family, it has survived empires, wars, and economic collapses. How? By staying small. It has 35 rooms, and its focus has always been singular: impeccable customer service. It never tried to become a global hotel chain. It focused on being better, not bigger. Contrast this with Kongo Gumi, a temple construction company that operated for over 1,400 years. In the 1980s, during a financial bubble in Japan, they abandoned their core focus and expanded aggressively into real estate, taking on massive debt. When the bubble burst, the company that had survived for 14 centuries was liquidated. What it couldn't survive was the cost of rapid growth. This is the ultimate lesson of the company of one. Success doesn't lie in growing something massive and fragile, but in building something remarkable, resilient, and profitable that can stand the test of time. Something that is, in effect, too small to fail. It's about finding your enough. When you reach that point, it's not a sign of failure. It's a moment of liberation. It's the moment you gain the freedom to build a business and a life that truly serves you. As we wrap up our journey through Company of One, I want to reflect on what makes this idea so powerful, especially if you're standing at the beginning of your own path. The world will constantly tell you that bigger is better. More followers, more revenue, a bigger title, a larger team. It's a game of endless accumulation, and it's very easy to get caught up in it. We measure our worth by comparing ourselves to others, chasing metrics that often have very little to do with our actual happiness or fulfillment. What Paul Jarvis offers isn't just a different business model, it's a different way of seeing the world. It's an invitation to step off that frantic hamster wheel and ask yourself a simple but profound question: what is my definition of success? The most powerful lesson in this book is that you get to decide. You have the power to define what enough means for you. This isn't about limiting your ambition. On the contrary, it's about directing your ambition toward what truly matters. It's the ambition to create something of exceptional quality. The ambition to build deep, meaningful relationships with the people you serve. The ambition to design a life where your work fuels your passions instead of consuming them. This book is a quiet rebellion against the hustle culture that glorifies burnout and sacrifice as badges of honor. It reminds us that there's no prize for working yourself to exhaustion. The real prize is freedom. The freedom to choose your projects, to control your schedule, and to build a life that's rich in ways money alone can never measure. So how can you start applying these ideas right now, even before you've started a business? Here are 3 simple actions. First, Start practicing the art of questioning the default. When you see a company pursuing massive growth, don't just be impressed by its size. Ask why. What are they sacrificing for that scale? Is there a smaller, smarter, more elegant way to solve the same problem? This critical thinking is the foundation of the company of one mindset. Second, focus on becoming a craftsman, not just a dreamer. Instead of asking, "What am I passionate about?" ask, "What skills can I master that are valuable to others?" As Cal Newport argues, passion is often the side effect of mastery. Get so good at something that people can't ignore you. That expertise is the foundation of your future autonomy. And third, start teaching. You don't need to be the world's foremost expert to share what you know. Document your learning journey. Help the person who's just one step behind you. By generously sharing your knowledge, you begin to build trust, authority, and the social capital that will be the bedrock of anything you choose to create in the future. That was a summary of Company of One by Paul Jarvis. We've explored the main highways of this powerful book today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only show you the map. The real adventure happens when you decide to take the journey yourself. It's in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or simple idea connects with your own life in a way you never expected. This summary is a compass, designed to help you decide if this is a path worth exploring. If anything we've talked about today has sparked something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning business tactics. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you think about work, success, and the life you want to build. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, I would be so grateful if you would hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It tells us we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.